Welcome to Work Comp Talk, a podcast dedicated for injured workers all throughout California. Joining me today is my co-host, Bilal Kassem, and we have lots to discover today about what is not covered in the workers' compensation system. So, welcome back, Mr. Bilal, Mr. Worldwide. That's what I'm going to start calling you, dude. So, you've been out for a minute.
Yeah, we've been busy.
I know.
Busy.
It's been
But
a
it's
good
good.
busy.
It's good to get back in here, coming up on the end of the year here. So
Yeah, I mean, last time I saw you, your hair was shorter, you had less white. But anyways, let's talk about some of the things that we want to wrap up for, someone that's been injured at work and needs to get those questions. And there's a lot of misinformation in social media and in the internet in general, where people believe they're entitled to X, Y, and Z within the system, and then comes to show that no, you're not entitled. So I thought, why not dig into, what is not covered? We've always talked about the good stuff. Let's talk about the sad part. Unfortunately, there are some, and these are things that are not covered. So dive right into it.
yeah, we talk a lot about what's not covered, but I think we do it kind of piecemeal throughout a lot of our videos when we're explaining certain topics. So I think it's a great idea that we put this all in one place,
Agreed.
At least in big terms for everyone. So, I think the first thing, and we've talked about this before, is really what workers' comp is a system, right? It was designed so that you can't sue your employer for things like negligence. You can't assign fault to injuries. And so the trade-off is, because you get your benefits, that your damages are limited. And one of the prime examples of that are things like pain and suffering. So normally in a personal injury lawsuit, you can allege things like pain and suffering, which is just the sheer fact that you've been injured and you can't work or do other things, or you've lost
made me go
quality of
through
life.
shit, and now
Yeah.
I'm struggling. So F you, I want money for me going through shit.
Exactly, which I think most people who are injured want. Unfortunately, that's not the case in workers' comp. You can allege things like psychological stress, sexual dysfunction, loss of sleep, but the way the law is written now, unless it's really a catastrophic injury, you can't recover permanent disability for those things. You can still collect temporary disability, you can still get medical treatment, but there's no long-term award for that in form of permanent disability. So, pain and suffering at one point was kind of recoverable, because people used to say, applicants' attorneys would file cases and say, okay, well, this person hurt their back, therefore, they can't have sex, sexual dysfunction. They're not sleeping because they're in pain, so sleep disorders, and psychological distress because, quite frankly, they're miserable because they're pain all the time. And those would get evaluated, permanent disability would be assigned, and it would really increase the value of the case. The legislature changed that around 2013 so that you can't really rely on those things anymore unless your injury meets certain criteria.
Right, you said catastrophic. What considers a catastrophic injury where you're essentially going to get paid because you can no longer have sex?
So there was a case, it's called Wilson, I believe, and it set out, I think there's 5 factors. I know I'm an attorney, I should have this stuff memorized, but I've got a lot of gray hair now. So, but there were several factors the court would consider in determining whether or not an injury is catastrophic. And ultimately, they look at the significance of the need for treatment, the ultimate outcome of that person's medical condition after the treatment's basically plateaued, the value of the permanent disability, and their need for future medical care, and their effect on what they call ADLs, activities of daily living, meaning how significant has the injury impacted their day-to-day. And so there's not one part of that or one factor of those factors that's dispositive, yes or no, but the court looks at all of them combined to say, hey, how bad is this injury? That's really what they're after. Like,
Right.
Is this person really messed up, or is this just like, they're kind of hurt and it's not a big deal?
So they really want to see you as a vegetable. Like, that's considered catastrophic. Like, you are literally just laying in bed doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there's cases we fought over what it means to be catastrophic. Someone who falls off a roof and snaps their spine, that's probably catastrophic.
Yep.
Someone has carpal tunnel, probably not catastrophic,
Damn.
So there's other exceptions too, but really, the gist of it is not everyone can get pain and suffering, even though, quite frankly, everyone who's injured is going through pain and suffering,
Right. And this you said was changed in 2013, so it's relatively new still. If you think about it, it's not that old. 10 years ago when this was changed.
And that was part of a big legislative move, SB 863, and that changed a lot of what we do in workers' comp, and that was one of the components of the legislation.
Would you say it's beneficial?
No, not at all. At the time, there were a number of basically I think backroom deals being made between insurance lobby and the unions and people who were advocating for the injured worker, and the injured workers did get some increase in benefits, like a change in permanent disability rates that had gone up. I believe the change was 20% at the time, which is significant, but they gave up other things, like the ability to plead those types of things like pain and suffering.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's one. What is another thing that is not covered in the workers' compensation system?
In a way, lost wages. So you do get lost wages in the form of temporary disability while you're recovering.
Right.
But when you've medically plateaued, you've been deemed what's called permanent stationary, or the new term's maximally medically improved, meaning you've leveled off, there's nothing they can do to really make you any better, at which point you get permanent disability. The permanent disability in workers' comp is designed to compensate you for functional issues that you have, not your inability to work.
Right.
And so what you end up with are people who have very specific career paths that require significant experience and or training being displaced from their jobs because of minor injuries. And if you happen to have a very specific skill and you're displaced from your employment, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
If I'm a career electrician and I've been on the job for, let's say, better part of a decade, and now I have, let's say, a small hand injury, and maybe the permanent disability is worth $10,000, not a ton of money, but now I can never be an electrician again.
Oof. The amount of money you lose.
Exactly. The amount of money that you lose from not being able to pursue the career that you were trained for and you have experience in is not compensated in workers' comp. They don't say, oh, well, go find a different field now, but we're going to pay you what you would have earned as an electrician for the next 25 years. And I think a lot of people run into that with the work restrictions, where they're forced out of their employment. They can't do what they love anymore. They can't do what's been making them money that they used to support their family. And they get this paltry, small, permanent disability award or settlement at the end. And they're like, what the heck? Why?
Yeah.
I should be getting what I would have earned
if I was normal.
If I was going to continue working this
right.
job. But that's not the way the law is set up, and I think that's a big surprise to a lot of people.
That sucks. And obviously you said the only way you can compensate for that is the temporary disability, or I guess while you're recovering, your temporary benefits, which is your money.
Yeah, you get 2/3 of your average weekly wage, subject to maximum rates, and that's pretty much it.
Great. What other thing would be considered not covered that people expect, especially injured workers? Because I feel like, again, you read stuff online and you're like, oh, different states have different rules, and they feel like, well, I saw online that you do get paid for this and that.
Pain. We talked about pain and suffering. We talked about lost wages. I think the next biggest one that comes up frequently, I guess you'd call them punitive damages. Punitive damages in the legal sense mean that you're punishing the person at fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll see these companies that did something really bad, and the judge or the jury will award, millions or hundreds of millions in punitive damages.
Which we see in personal injury.
Yeah, the whole idea is like, this person did something so stupid or so messed up or so cruel that they should be punished outside of the plaintiff's actual damages. Maybe your lost wages are only $50,000, but they did something so terrible that they get damages in the amount of $1 million, right? So I think it's compensating for that in a way. You don't get that in workers' compensation. In workers' compensation, it's not really, it's kind of a lawsuit, but not really, right? The whole idea is that it's a no-fault system.
You just you get awarded for benefit. You get your treatment.
You get
we'll
your
take
medical
care of you.
treatment. You get lost wages while you're recovering. Then you get permanent disability. If you're displaced from your job, you get a voucher for job retraining, and that's like the end of it. So there's a lot of stupid injuries, right? There's a lot of injuries that happen because, quite frankly, someone did something idiotic. Someone messed up somewhere, and that caused this person's injury. In workers' comp, you don't get to recover for that. The exception is if the conduct was so egregious, it's considered, we call it serious and willful misconduct. And to do that, you have to have a dangerous condition. The employer has to have known about the dangerous condition and failed to act, and they had to have had reckless disregard for the consequences and likelihood that that dangerous condition would cause injury to someone. And so it's not just like, oh, my employer told me to do X, Y, and Z, and it was kind of dangerous, and they should have done it this way, and if they did it that way, I wouldn't have been injured. It's like, okay, well, the employer did something stupid, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
So for serious and willful misconduct, it's very difficult to prove. Very
Yikes.
difficult to prove. Outside of things like OSHA violations and whatnot, which do happen frequently, but for your I guess everyday run of the mill case, even if someone, your colleague or your employer, did something kind of stupid and that contributed to the likelihood of you being injured and you did get injured, there's no additional benefits for that.
Right.
So, and we see it a lot, an employer did something stupid, and had they not done that stupid thing, person wouldn't have been injured, but
Exactly.
it doesn't rise to that level of serious and willful misconduct.
That's crazy. I mean, it's good that we're talking about it, because I think, again, expectations are set super high when it comes to some of the things that we see in other different parts of the law, or even from other states. And when you're in the reality of you just recently got injured, it's like you're saying, the system is set for you to essentially get medical treatment and try to get you back on your feet. Might not be 100%, but the idea behind it is you're just gonna get that support to, like, come on, get better. Here's the Band-Aid, slap a Band-Aid on and move on.
Yeah. It's
People
called
think
a
they're gonna be
benefit
rich.
delivery system. It's not, full-blown litigation like in Superior Court, which I think is another huge difference that, we haven't talked about but comes up a lot. People think they get jury trials in workers' comp.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to convince them.
I've heard a lot. I've heard clients say, you know what, I'll let the jury decide. And I wish that were the case, because juries would probably award our clients a lot of money if that was the case. A jury of your peers would be more sympathetic, I think. But
Yeah.
in workers' comp, we have administrative law judges, which they preside over the cases. They make the decisions. They preside over the trials. They are the one who's in control. You have something similar in Superior Court called bench trials. When you file a civil lawsuit, you can actually elect to have a bench trial, or you can have a jury trial. You don't get that in workers' comp. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people think that they're going to get into court and it's going to be a full-blown trial and there's going to be a jury and I'm going to give this opening statement and I'm going to make
see on TV,
grand
court
closing
TV.
argument, and that's not something that happens in workers' compensation. I think it's a lot more mechanical than that. The judges are there seeing a high volume of cases all the time, and their job is to expedite benefits delivery and resolution of matters, not, to put on these big trials like they do in Superior Court. So even that being said, the judges work within a closed system, and they only have certain powers that they can use to affect results. And I think, piggybacking on the fact that people think there's juries, people also think the judges have a lot more discretion than they actually do to decide certain issues. I have clients who come and say, well, I'll just let the judge decide. Mm-hmm. And I've advised the client, like, hey, you're getting the best deal possible. The judge can't force them to do more than this. The judge can't do X, Y, and Z. And the client will still say, I'll just let the judge decide.
They have that perception. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, we have an entire other episode that talks about what you expect in trials. And we did talk about what are some of the things that judges can and cannot do. And
Mm-hmm.
again, these expectations that are built from the injured worker's mindset of the judge is going to hear my story out and have empathy and switch things and make them do X, Y, and Z.
Yep. And the judges have very limited powers that are established in the labor code and, California Code of Civil Procedure and stuff. And that's basically it. So,
Damn.
I think there's that bit of mistaken information out there that people think the judge can do a lot more.
So then I get it. The judge can't tell them how much they can pay. He doesn't put the number, right? The number comes in. We've talked about this again in another episode. Where does that percentage of disability come from as far as like how badly injured you are, and how does that then get calculated into the amount you're awarded and stuff like that? So the judge is ultimately there for what?
To try cases, sure. They award things like permanent disability, but a prime example of this is compromise and release settlements, where generally an insurance company will buy out your medical care, is a voluntary process. You can't force them to. And so oftentimes we run into situations where the client's medical is probably worth more than what the insurance company is offering to buy it out. And the insurance company is saying, that's it. You can either have your permanent disability and you can keep your medical, or we'll buy out everything for X number of dollars. And sometimes the numbers don't jive. So I think a prime example of this is the clients will say, well, I want more than that. We'll just let the judge decide. And I have to explain that the the judge has zero power to award money in lieu of future medical care. So if your medical care to you is worth $100,000 and the insurance company's offering you $20,000, you're not going to go to trial and the judge is going to say, congratulations, I'm awarding $100,000 in medical.
Yeah.
They have zero power to do that.
That sucks.
So, they can award things like permanent disability, but even then they need to rely on medical reports for that. So the judge doesn't have an open book of tools available to them to give you whatever it is you feel is just.
Right.
Which can be frustrating.
Right. That sucks. Is there anything else that does not get taken care of or does not, what you're not entitled to that people do think they are in the workers' comp system here in California? Besides what we've already discussed.
I'm sure there's a ton, but I guess one is, job retraining, and now it's much more limited than it was before. We used to use this term called vocational rehabilitation, and it was a benefit that was much more robust. I'll say this, back in the day. Now it's a voucher for up to $6,000 in job retraining, plus you get a $5,000 stipend from the state if you're entitled to the voucher in the first place. But that's it. If you need to go back to school and it costs you $50,000,
that's on you.
Too bad, so sad. You get the benefits from the insurance company for that $6,000, $5,000 from the state, and that's it.
Damn.
So, vocational rehabilitation's been chopped down quite a bit as well over the years.
That sucks. But if you look at it in the positive, and you have to always find the positive when you're in situations like this, it's $11,000 or nothing. It could have been zero. So you take those $11,000 and you move on and you figure out what's next. I don't think life is purposely putting you in situations that you can't handle. I think when there's a way, there's a will. So
yeah, but workers' comp really tests your patience.
Oh, they do. They totally do. I've
Yeah.
seen it. I've seen cases go on. There's a lot of conversations that happen throughout our social media, and YouTube being one in particular, where people just tell us what they're going through. And I've seen people that have been in the workers' comp system since the 90s. And I'm sitting here like, what? Like,
It's
you're
crazy,
still
right?
doing this? Like, oh gosh.
So there was this law firm, they had this press release that they put out, and there was this guy, I guess he was injured, and they settled his case for $2.3 million,
Oh,
which
wow.
at first glance in workers' comp is that's like $100 million in any other context, right? It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then you read the details of the case, and it turns out the guy was injured back in 1989 or something crazy. He would have been far better off had he actually just gone to work and earned a paycheck rather than getting this settlement. So, basically gave up whatever 30 years of his life for this, amount of money that all things considered isn't much, for what he went through. So, I think that says a lot about what workers' comp can really deliver and achieve for people.
Yeah. And I think it's very important, too, for those that are hesitant to get an attorney. It's kind of like it's a system that a lot of people don't know. It might seem like it's a cookie cutter. I'll Google it. I'll figure it out. But it's very different. It's not like when you're going to the doctors in a normal case scenario, where you need an MRI and you go to your doctor and then they refer you to the MRI. This is completely different. It has a lot of legal intricacies that go into it and a lot of denials and stuff like that. And that's why, one of the biggest important things that we always mention is get yourself an attorney. Despite what some might say, oh, but the attorney's going to get money and I'm not trying to. It's like, you're going to have peace of mind knowing that you have someone that knows the system, making sure that you're getting taken care of in every way possible and that you're not leaving any money on the table. God forbid you're dragging a freaking case from the 80s to that's insane. So again, we always root for you getting a legal team behind your side. They have a legal team, the insurance company, all the time, right? They have an attorney.
Yeah, a lot of insurance companies have attorneys in-house that work for the insurance company. They also associate with outside counsel, even if there's no attorney of record, they could still be consulting with an attorney. So, they have their team too.
They do. And they've been doing, this is what they do for a living. This is not what you do for a living. So best case scenario, hire yourself an attorney. And we've given the stats on this as well. It is proven that anyone who hires an attorney gets an additional 30% on a settlement in anything that they're doing just by hiring an attorney.
Yeah. I think attorneys deliver value. Selfishly, I am an attorney, but, I think we provide a good service and we do the best we can in the system with the tools we have. So
peace of mind, again, peace of mind. You don't have to stress about the back and forth calling, dealing with the claims adjusters, trying to get that appointment rescheduled. It's like you have an entire team helping you behind the scenes so that you can just focus on your recovery. So there's a lot to be discussed, totally different than what we're used to seeing, because we usually talk about the positive. Today we decided, you know what, let's give a heads up of what's not covered in the California workers' comp system that people think is covered, which is a lot, and I'm pretty sure we left a lot behind. So he likes to answer questions. We have a segment called Ask Bilal. Make sure you drop your question, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell notification so you get notified every time we update new content, and we might just be answering one of your questions via that campaign, the Ask Bilal. So we'll catch you guys on the next episode. My name is Carmen, your host for Work Comp Talk podcast. Thanks, Bilal.
Yep, of course.